You're welcome back. When I was young, all I wanted to do was grow up. As a kid, I couldn't do anything I liked. I couldn't watch TV beyond the 9 p.m. news bulletin. I couldn't eat ice cream for breakfast. I couldn't wear my Sunday best to school. And on top of all of that, I had to do my homework. It was frustrating. And every time I protested, my parents would tell me not to worry, and that once I grew up, I could do whatever I wanted. So that became my lifeline. I clung to that promise for dear life, just waiting for the day when I would be a grown-up and could stay up all night eating ice cream in my Sunday best without a page of homework in sight. So now I'm a grown-up. I don't remember the last time I watched TV at all, let alone the 9 p.m. bulletin. I'm diabetic, and so I'm not allowed ice cream. I definitely can't wear my Sunday best to work, and I stay up until about 1 a.m. every day doing my homework. I grew up all right, but I still can't do whatever I want. Here's another thing I dreamt of when I was a kid. I was 17 years old on holiday in Tema, washing my auntie's car one morning when my elbow hit the radio power button by accident, and the interior was suddenly filled with the smooth voice of Tommy Ananforson, hosting something called the Super Morning Show. He was funny, he was clever, he was full of emotion, and he seemed to know everything in the world, from where traffic was worst in Accra to who was speaking at the auditorium at Legon, from the cost of a movie ticket to the various flavors of Poki. He knew everything. Not only did he have conversations with famous people, he also seemed to finish work at 9 a.m. Immediately, that seemed to me the coolest job in the world, and I wanted it badly. So now I have it, and I realize that I really do not know everything in this world. In fact, I know nothing. So I must keep asking questions. I must keep reading. I must keep researching. I have conversations, all right, but not so much with famous people as with smart people. And you know you can't come empty-headed into a smart conversation, right? So I spend more hours reading now than I did when I was a full-time student. As for finishing work at 9 a.m., well, my last meeting yesterday ended at 8:55 p.m. You know, there's only one simple point to all this. When we dream, we often imagine the pretty big picture and leave out the gritty details. We know what we aspire to be, but we don't always know what it takes to live our aspirations. Many young people are in medical school right now who don't yet realize that their fancy job as a prestigious doctor will one day involve telling a little girl that she's about to die of leukemia. Many future lawyers don't realize that they will have to keep learning every single day for the rest of their lives. Our tertiary institutions are filled with budding politicians and future leaders who have not yet clocked that they are signing up to be hated, insulted, scorned, and reviled by people they have never met. Many of us were relieved to hear the numerous goodies, if we can call them that the president announced last year for the nation to help ease the pain of COVID-19. Free water, free light, no doomsday, free transport, soft loans, no tax, and time and a half for frontline medical workers. It was like Christmas in April. We all hailed the chief for his benevolence. But the dirty details of how it will all be paid for did not quite preoccupy the national mind. As always, we saw and embraced the result, but cared very little about the process. Now we are facing unprecedented tax hikes to pay for the dirty details of the shiny dreams the president sold us last year. You know, the shell of your dream may be pretty, but there is a gooey mess within that you cannot afford to take for granted. Keep your expectations real and steel yourself for the unprecedented hard work that must go into living your dream. The more prepared you are, the more successful you will be. And that's it. My name is Kojo Yankson, and I dream with my eyes open. Good morning, Ghana.
Hello, good morning and welcome to the AM News with me, Mapisa Sividi. Now, in our first story, the Bru Power Authority has described as misleading claims that the facility has been shut down. The Director of Systems Operations at Gridco, Macba, at a news conference last week, cited the shutdown as a result of the low water level as one of the challenges affecting power supply. But Chief Executive Officer of the Bru Hydro Dam, Fred Owari, exclusively tells JoyNews Alton Brobe the dam is up and running and has never been shut down despite the low level of water.
Let me be bold enough and say that I think Gridco has misled the minister in making such a sad statement. Because as we sit here talking right now, we is in operation. We have 3 units which work at 133.
It's not true that the water
is
is
not true. It's not. That water has gone down without any doubt whatsoever. But this is not an unforeseen act. We knew this. And last year, when we submitted our supply plan, we indicated quite clearly that this year we will not be able to generate as much as we generated last year. And we'll give them month by month how much we're going to. If there's a problem, let's talk about it. But they can't put it on Bui because we knew last year that the supply plan would be what it is. And so they should have looked at our supply plan and make alternative arrangement to fill in the gap. But to say that there's doing so in Ghana because it's quite misleading. And I think you can make your own independent investigation. At Bui, we have a 3-year cycle. If you remember, 3 years ago, we actually spilled water for 10 days. And when we calculated, it was something like $600,000 equivalent per day for 10 days. All right? Last year, the rainfall wasn't as good as the previous year. This is the worst for the 3 years. So we expect next year to be much better. These are things which are known and calculated. And we can tell you the amount of energy that will generate next year based on the rainfall patterns. Now, it is for the system operator to say that if I'm looking for, at peak, 2,800 to sustain the system, and a generator number 1, Bui, will give me 90, what's the difference? The 2,710, let me go and look it from somewhere. If you don't go and look for it and you wait and your light go off and say that it's because of Bui's 90, that's quite misleading.
Meanwhile, the 2020 vice presidential candidate of the NDC, Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman, says the killing of the 10-year-old boy demands a national soul-searching and honest inquiry into the direction of the country. She visited family members of the deceased on Tuesday and presented an amount of 10,000 Ghana cedis on behalf of the NDC and 2020 presidential candidate John Dramani Mahama. Now, next, Ghana's 30 million population is served by only 100 ophthalmologists, and patients with unusual eye disorders have a tough time finding treatment since most eye care providers are located in urban areas. According to health experts, the insufficient ophthalmologist to patient ratio should be improved in order to provide optimal treatment. Love FM's Mona Lisa has more. Apologies for the loss in sound for that story. We'll bring it in our subsequent bulletins. But in our last story, 6 dangerous snakes have been harvested from residential settlements in Kumasi within the past 3 months. A 6-meter-long African rock python is among the reptiles captured by the Kumasi Zoological Gardens. Nana Yaojima reports climate variation and filth could be factors causing migration of the snakes into human settlements. Here's his reports.
5 men bring out the African giant python for examination at the Kumasi Zoo. It is a fully developed python, 6 meters tall, captured hatching its eggs at Bokrom in Kumasi. Dr. Paul Mezieka from the Kumasi Zoo led the team.
This period, I think we've had about 6 calls. We've been able to attend to 4 of them. We've captured a cobra, and then the rest that we've captured are African rock pythons, and then a royal python as well.
Another python of similar size was captured at the construction site of the KJTIA Market Redevelopment Project. This type of snake is non-venomous but can cause harm to humans. Professor Isaac Tete is a climate scientist at the Department of Environmental Science, Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology.
The snake has always seen the prey. So to incline the head in that angle, say 45 degrees, squirt the venom go straight into your eyes to blindfold you, and then it will attack you. Those that are non-venomous, such as the pythons, they resort to their physical power, and they will constrict you, coil around you, and stretch you apart. So the more you are breathing, the more they also stretch, to ensure that they cause cessation to your breathing rhythms, and they will kill you and they will swallow you.
Snakes are known to live in water and forests, sometimes the deserts. Since they are cold-blooded, they regulate their own body temperature, basking in the sun for warmth, and move to cooler locations to cool themselves down. Destruction of the environment by human activities has changed conditions in their habitation, hence migration of the snakes. Professor Tete explains.
The irony is that this deforestation is going to emit so many greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. And what greenhouse gases do is that they trap heat which should escape into space, into our territory. So the heat is retained. That heat is also being augmented by solar heating from space, so that we have the warm climate surrounding the area of where the animals are. When it happens like that, then as I said, every organism has its tolerance range. So what is that with the ability to have the thermoreceptors, it senses that there is danger. So I should migrate to a place that is safer.
Scientists believe food source combined with environmental factors influence movement out of their natural habitats. Rodents, a feed for snakes, thrive in uncollected waste, hence the movement to city centers. Professor Tete again.
Without regular dislodging of the refuse and transportation to landfill sites to manage the waste very well, then insects will be there. Rodents will also be in the refuse. And when these animals, the snakes come, they are going to feed on the rodents. And once they get the rodents, they see that, oh, we have a better place to live. So they prefer living with us.
Scientists like Professor Tete and Dr. Zieka are both proposing reversal of environmental destruction and proper waste management to help solve the problem.
They should be prohibitive, strictly enforced, that nobody will touch preserved areas.
Let's protect our environment, let's protect our wildlife, we shouldn't destroy their habitat. And then coming back specifically to snakes, I would want to say that let's take waste management very, very seriously.
From Kumasi, for JoyNews, Nana Yaojima reporting.
Well, welcome on the news review belt of the show. It's another morning and quite a number of papers we have here, quite a number of stories we're getting into. Mawavi, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Ben. I have to say that if you're just leaving home, and Apenkwa is usually your stretch. Apenkwa is the road, you know, the main Tesano road, just in front of Papaya, the traffic light there. There's been a gory accident, and it's causing heavy vehicular traffic on that stretch. So you've got to be patient. If you're yet to leave home, you might encounter some traffic. We know that the police trying to pull the track, and I think there was one vehicle that I saw, a trotro vehicle, but I understand that there are also 2 motorbikes involved, and some persons may have died in this accident. So it's a very serious one. You have to be patient if you're just leaving home. Traffic may be on your road.
You might want to use an alternative route, if any. I mean, and we don't even know the full, figures when it comes to how many people were involved, how many cars or, vehicles were involved. So we'll bring you more of those details as the day flows on. But again, it's a caution to all of us to arrive alive. Drive cautiously. And that is some footage right there.
Yeah. This is the accident, and I thought this was overnight. Apparently, this happened between 4 and 4:30 a.m. just this morning. This truck loaded with cement or maybe sacks of something was actually stationed.
And this will make the impact even worse for that first trotro vehicle because of how compact this truck is. So you slam into it, and it's full force.
Yeah, yeah. I just sense that something may have happened from way before you get to this particular point, because there was very slow traffic from the Achimota overpass. And then I got to this place and, oh gosh. So see the impact, just the front of the trotro is totally gone.
And we hear the driver didn't make it.
Yeah.
The driver of the trotro vehicle. I mean, we'll get more of these details, but you look at the impacts there, and it's obvious that this is not looking good at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Well, we thank God for our lives, and we pray that we will all be responsible enough so we can keep each other safe on our roads.
But Mama V, it's just becoming. How many times? I mean, I'm lost for words. How many times have we experienced such in recent days, weeks? We're talking about the 28 from Easter, so between Good Friday and Easter Monday, 28 of them. This year already, the numbers have been horrifyingly high. I don't know what is going on. We've heard the bit about our roads. Recently, we were told that, in fact, yesterday there was a rejoinder from the Ghana Highways Authority talking about the dynamics and how it may not necessarily be 70% of our roads that are bad, feeder roads, this and that. But the point to be made is that partly it is owing to bad roads, partly it is owing to bad maintenance, but a lot of the time too, it is owing to irresponsible, reckless driving. And I don't know, but just, we don't even know. You're mentioning the motorbikes, the motorcycles and the others in there, but you can't even imagine how many people would have been in that trotro who have lost their lives. Now we're hearing the driver himself may not have made it. Let's really take care. On the back of Christ, you don't want to leave home, and you never come back.
Yeah, yeah. It's really sad, actually. Very sad. And then sometimes we really also have to be patient.
In my mouth this morning. I mean, looking at it, it's just terrible.
You know, I was just running a bit late, and I was in this slow-moving traffic, and I was wondering, should I move out and go somewhere else? But I think I was chill somehow. Even though I contemplated moving out of the lane, I thought this is rather unusual. Maybe something is ahead of me. So just chill and keep going. Yeah.
So maybe you had some premonition, and you remember what I told you yesterday about my near accident bit. Sometimes you just get that pause. But something else I see, and just because you've mentioned this, I see that could be problematic. You know, before 6 o'clock, usually before 6, some traffic lights are not in operation. So they are amber till at around 6, then it starts, working. That is another recipe for trouble. You know why? Because the motorists, because they see it that way, everyone is trying
They're
to
speeding
at an
from
intersection,
behind, even before they get to the traffic light.
And they are not going to wait for anybody who is now. That is also a recipe for, accidents. I see it all the time, and everybody is trying to get through it creates a mess. All those things. And no one is patient. No one wants to see the position for the other person to pass before they go. I don't get it.
The question with this particular incident, though, because this happened, this is just before the traffic lights. So we have to ask questions about whether or not there were enough warning signs to tell any driver coming from behind that there was a station vehicle, an unmoving vehicle, there was a problem vehicle ahead of them, so that they could be careful. And we have to ask the police.
That's another serious bit.
Yeah.
A lot of them don't have the triangles. In fact, you would notice that they use branches sometimes. So until they get some branches from some tree to put there, you will not even know. And the tendency, I've seen these on the Tema motorway. I've seen them all over the place. They break down and they are practically in the middle of the road. You can't tell that they've broken down. So if you're speeding, imagine the Tema motorway and a vehicle blocked there, and everybody is speeding. You know, even on that motorway, you have to go at a certain, speed, because you can't go slow. So you're doing that, and there's a vehicle like this, no warning triangle, nothing. If you're not careful, you do exactly what happened here.
There's also no street lights, and this is so obvious if you look at the video again. If you get an opportunity to see the video again, you see that the place is totally dark. And it's on, that entire stretch. That's also one of the things that we have to be looking at. But we would bring you stories from the newspapers now. See, look at the place. Street lights totally out. And it can take you all the way to Ofankor. Street lights not working. And so everybody driving is using a high. And yesterday, in my interaction with the drivers, they were talking about people having all sorts of lights now. And imagine that all the lights are on because everybody claims that they can't see. Place is dark.
Right.
And we're all going like
Especially
that.
with people who are, who use glasses like we do. When the light falls on your eyes, sometimes that itself is a cause for accidents.
Well, I've got the Daily Graphic newspaper, Republic Press, Accra Times, the Daily Statesman, and the Ghanaian Publisher. These are the papers that I'll be looking through this morning.
I'll take you through the Ghanaian Times newspaper, the Daily Guide, the Daily Dispatch, the Finder, and the Custodian newspaper. I'll start with the Ghanaian Times, and it says, sanitation pollution levy will help landfill site management. You've been complaining about your rubbish not being picked. Has it been taken out?
So mine has, but there are portions, the same community, within the same community, and some neighbors are still complaining. I actually saw people's refuse overflowing in front of their houses. So the job hasn't been completed. Okay, and then that is Nilanti Vanderpoy speaking there, and he's applauding the imposition of the sanitation or pollution levy. Achimota School, Rastafarian saga, court denies interlocutory injunction. We'll be telling you a bit more about that. I think yesterday I saw a tweet by Tyrone Magai, and it's interesting the sort of following he has got since all of this started, and that was even before the case started being heard. He was hoping for the best. Queen Mother returns home to rousing welcome, and there's 1D1F creates 139,000 jobs with 76 companies operating under the initiative. I'll be bringing you details of those stories. And we also have the GJA opening nominations yesterday for members who are interested in contesting in the 2021 national elections. On the back page, the Ghanaian Times, Green Ghana project to plant 5 million trees June 11. There's a lot that has been said about planting trees. Let's see how this initiative works out. And then work on 97.6 kilometer Tema Mpakadan Railway, 80% complete. That's it with the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Let's do the Daily Graphic newspaper. This is what's on the front page of the paper today. $80 million steel plant opens, biggest in West Africa, create 2,000 jobs. This was carried live here on JoyNews yesterday. President Akufo-Addo being briefed, and this is a description of what you see on the front page of the paper in a little bit on your screen. There you have it. So he's been briefed on the processes of the company by Mr. Mahesh Takwani, CEO B5 Plus Steel Company near Pram Pram, and there's Alan Chamating, the trade minister, with them as well. This is the man that I interviewed not too long ago He's supplying free oxygen to over 50 hospitals, including the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. Yeah, but you know, we injected some money into his business. He benefited from the One District, One Factory, and so he's expanding a much bigger factory now. Dialogue on illegal mining opens today. Hayford wins first Kia Pegas in graphic at 70 promo. Will I ever win one of those things? Like free vehicle, free something, free something? In the center spread of it? Yeah, of course, I do.
Free vehicle.
Especially when it's a car. Center spread, the Ministry of Food and Agriculture is to launch a program to make smallholder farming in the country competitive to meet market demand and also increase rural income. Ambassadors, High Commissioners designate sharpen skills. We're told is a 2-day orientation for 35 ambassadors and High Commissioners designates by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration to sharpen the skills of the diplomats for the task ahead. Has ended in Accra. We will collaborate with private sector to deliver affordable housing. That's the Minister for Works and Housing, Francis Asen-Sobwache, who said that the vision of the government for the sector is to use an appropriate mix of public and private sector investment to deliver quality, safe and affordable housing solutions to meet the needs of the people. On the back page, the Tema Mpakadan Railway project is progressing steadily. Ben touched on it. There was similar story in the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Immigration Service on high alert. They've triggered a high alert surveillance at the country's borders following the massive jailbreak in Nigeria, where 1,800 people escaped from prison last week. So they've urged Ghanaians living in the country's communities of the country's land borders to be vigilant and cautious about their interactions with foreigners. Mind you, we already have porous borders. You were going to say something?
Yes, I was about to say that about 100 or so of them had actually turned themselves in again. You know, there was an amnesty for those who would, just turn themselves in. But if you were caught, then you would start your jail term all over again. So a number of them peacefully said, okay, we're back, it's okay. But there are so many of them who are still at large. Who have not.
Many of them will not go back and they won't find them. But thankfully, sometimes criminals, in some cases, will always be criminals. So they'll go and commit another crime again and they'll be rearrested. All right, I think that's it for the headlines in the Daily Graphic newspaper.
Let's do the Daily Guide now. And coup plotters cry over soldiers in court. Do you remember, so the names here, Dr. Frederick Yao-Macpalm, you remember him? And then ACP Agojo.
Oh, yeah.
We're actually beginning to, after a while, you sort of sometimes forget that maybe these cases are still pending, they still exist.
Yeah.
But some lawyers for these persons have alleged, who were alleged to have conspired to overthrow the Akufo-Addo-led NPP government, have expressed worry about the presence of uniformed military personnel in the courtroom whenever the case is called. Eric Bongo, who held the brief of Victor Adawudu, who is counsel for six of the persons accused, told the court that it was unnecessary for the military officers to be in the courtroom, especially when the accused persons had all been granted bail by the court. He added that the military officers are not witnesses in the matter and said he did not see the need for their presence in the courtroom on every trial day. But the judge of the court intervened. This is Justice Samuel Asiedu, a Court of Appeal judge sitting with additional responsibilities. And he intervened that he did not know whether it was the protocol of the military that whenever one of theirs is on trial in a civilian court, such an officer ought to be escorted by an officer of his rank. He added that it could only be a sign of respect being accorded to Colonel Gameli by allowing a senior military officer of his rank to escort him to court. So a lot of issues arising from that one, but the case is still alive and in court. There's a bit of an artistic impression, as is usual with the Daily Guide, and it's all about Osagyefo's ultimatum. You were talking about Shito yesterday. So, Tugby Shito, bring the old lady who cares, or that's how it's animated there. There's also 2020 election effectively organized according to the EU. That's on page 3. And the European Union Election Observer Mission, like we've now come to hear, in 2020 has said that the December presidential and parliamentary elections were effectively organized with voters participating freely and in large numbers. Chief Observer Javier Nart, a member of the European Parliament from Spain, who presented his final report on the general election, said, although the elections were free and fair, some shortcomings already identified by previous EU election observer missions remained. And just to touch on them, the abuse of or misuse of state resources, abuse of incumbency, vote buying, all of these, he said, were present. And that is that. How we deal with them ahead of our next election, well, it's up to all of us. When you go to the center spread of the paper, Nigerians, Ghanaians react to Twitter opening office in Ghana. There's this Nigerian who has penned a lengthy piece about how Ghana is eating up Nigeria's lunch in many ways. Have you seen that piece?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so it's a very interesting one, and he's saying that, look, the AFTA coming to Ghana, the Twitter HQ coming to Ghana, all of that is Ghana benefiting at the expense of Nigeria and all of that. In fact, Twitter even coming here was partly leveraged on the AFTA being here. But I don't know whether it should be antagonistic. It should be competitive, yes, but antagonistic, I don't know, because when you read it, you feel a bit of bile rising in this person's throat.
Let me tell you what will put bread and butter on our table, still related to the story. There are some job opportunities. Forget about the fact that the Twitter office is not in Nigeria or whatever, whoever is saying anything about it. But remember that there are job opportunities, that's analysts, identity operations, curation deputy lead. They're looking for senior researcher, global participation. So go online and find out the positions and apply. If this is your area and looking for a job, and let those who are unhappy that the office is in Ghana keep talking and going on and on and on.
Okay, so that's let's look out for the opportunities, most definitely. And then on the back page, Kotoko needs 6 weeks to jail, says Barreto. 2 referees marry, Howard Webb and Bibiana Steinhaus. And this is interesting because Webb, back in the day, it was said that whenever he refereed Manchester United matches, Manchester United.
Was it 2 referees marry, like a man and a woman, or a man and a man?
No, a man and a woman. So Howard Webb and Bibiana Steinhaus. Male referee, female referee.
You get my confusion, right?
Yes, I do. I do. And they made the most of the latest international break to tie the knot, with Steinhaus still working as a video assistant referee in the Bundesliga. So she is in the German league, and of course Howard Webb was in the English Premier League. So that is it. PSG joins Kane chase, and PSG yesterday, of course, qualifying at the expense of Bayern Munich, who netted a goal against them. Let's check out some other papers.
This is the Republic Press newspaper. There's a story that I've been looking closely at because I got a video of police raiding a certain shrine or a place where somebody carried out either doubling of money or making people's dreams come true, and they found some fake currencies in there. So I'm not sure if this is related, but it says fetish priest in court for dealing in fake money. Ghana to start production of COVID-19 vaccines soon. The banner headline, confusion rocks energy sector, Gridco buoy on collision course. So this has to do with Gridco saying not too long ago that buoy has shut down, and the boss at buoy, Fred Owari, in an interaction with our presidential correspondent, Elton Brobe, said flatly that the Gridco boss didn't tell us the truth and misled the minister in the process, and that they are actually working, not to full capacity, but they are actually working.
And that they have even indicated that, owing to certain challenges, they wouldn't be able to operate at full pelt, to full capacity, but that they have been in operation.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting, the sort of confusion going on in the sector.
Yeah. If you listen to persons who have very good knowledge in this area, They say that production is not even our issue. So the issue of whether bui is working or not does not even come into the equation. Our problem is the fact that we don't have the grid infrastructure to distribute the power that's generated. That really is the problem. Some people have also said that Gridco is not even spelling out, telling us their challenges, so we don't even know how to advocate for the problems to be fixed. So this is a back and forth that's going on with the people who generate the power, either generate the power or, carry what is generated. The question we are asking is, where is the Public Utilities Regulatory Authority? Because we don't know what the issue is, but we need to understand. Because whilst the big people fight or go back and forth with the issue, we're still experiencing either the low voltage or power cuts. And the manufacturing plants are really suffering. They are. Except that they're not talking, but the impacts in the industrial sector is great. If you go to the Spintex, the enclave where we've marked as either light or heavy industrial area, they're really suffering. Sometimes a whole production line could go waste because in the middle of it, if there is a blackout, everything would just go wrong. So whilst they go back and forth in terms of whether you're generating or you're not generating, we actually have a bigger problem, and we need to understand it so we can see how we can advocate for them to get help.
In recent days, we've been hearing of men lie, women cry. I guess in this one, it will be the big men fight, we suffer the plight.
Yeah.
It's terrible, but we really need to do something about this, because I'm not looking forward to... Yesterday, I was just, being funny on social media, and I posted that, look, my lights hadn't gone off in quite a while, but that had got me worried, because I was afraid that when Yanum finally zeroed in on my hood and started doing their thing, Charlie, it would not be funny at all.
Well, meanwhile, ECG is the ECG workers want the MD immediately removed.
Oh, yeah.
They say he has or he doesn't have vision. He lacks vision. He's actually done a few things, and these are all allegations that they are making. Breaches in procurements. MD lacks appreciation of his duties, for instance. He bypasses laid down processes, and they're also raising issues of non-payments of legitimate deductions. So they've given the board up to Friday, April 23, to get the MD out, or they shall advise themselves. So whilst the generators and the grid carriers are doing their banter, there's also the ECG workers who also claim that they have a very incompetent managing director. That's the allegation, and they want him out.
For them, there's a string of issues that have culminated in this decision. But we really need to get into the matter, because sometimes you could also be a victim of a system, and we'll find out how things pan out.
The other flip side is that MPP and NDC have also involved themselves in the Dumso issue. So it's
when you say they've involved themselves, how exactly do you mean?
Oh, NDC says that it is Dumso. See, they didn't want to tell us. Now we're experiencing it. Now they are fighting up there. What I mean is they've added their voices to it. And so it's become a typical political matter, whilst the CEOs, the two CEOs, also have their various views. And then, of course, the ECG workers. What it is that this doesn't fix our problem, does it?
And that's what I was about to get to. It shouldn't be about political colorations. You can expect that if the MPP is in power and the NDC is in the opposition, the music would be this way, and if it's the reverse, it would be a similar way. But the point is, if you don't have light, I don't have light. In our lives, that is doom. It's as simple. Fix it. Anyway.
Oh, the fetish priest, Koforidua Circuit Court presided over by Mrs. Mercy Adeikote has granted bail to a fetish priest in the sum of 150,000 Ghana cedis with two sureties, one to be justified by possessing fake money and defrauding by false pretense. Richard Vomawo is his name, 43, popularly known as Nana Buame. He pleaded not guilty to the charge of preparation to commit crime. And there are other charges. You can read the story if you're interested.
Well, the headlines in the other papers are very similar to what we've done already. But if you're done with your headlines, I'll just do one story. from the middle spread of the Ghanaian Times newspaper. 1D1F creates 139,000 jobs with 76 companies operating under the initiative. And the president yesterday inaugurated a steel manufacturing company at Prampram in the Greater Accra region under the government's One District, One Factory initiative. Like you were mentioning, the B5 Plus Steel Manufacturing Company, which currently employs over 1,000 workers, is expected to produce steel for both the Ghanaian and West African markets. So when the bad things happen, we talk about them. This is a good one as well, and we ought to highlight it. And your Pokwasi interchange, I say your because it's one that we're very interested in, is going to be completed by June, all of that in the middle spread of the paper. Anything before sports?
Osafo Manfo appointed senior presidential advisor to President Akufo-Addo.
Are you sure you want to bring that up at this point in time?
I'm not discussing it. You said any other thing, so this is just a quick headline before we take a breather for sports.
Some people are asking so many questions, but we'll leave it there. A very happy birthday to Sharon Day. God richly bless you, and we pray for the very best for you. Happy birthday, Sharon. It's time now for sports. Let's get to it.
Good morning, welcome to the sports segment on the AM show. I am Muftau Nabila Abdullah. We are still going to have conversations surrounding hooliganism in Ghana football and also alleged favoritism when it comes to national team call-ups and what transpired in the UEFA Champions League matches played last night. But first, we start from hooliganism, where the Ghana Police Service is warning hooligans that they will come after them, arrest and prosecute them after the Ghana FA president Kurt Okreku said that he expects the Ghana Police Service to act on these perpetrators. According to him, he is not the IGP and cannot prosecute anyone who is found culpable of breaching the laws governing the sanctity of Ghana football. Superintendent Abeye Bachman, who is the Director of Public Affairs of the Ghana Police Service, is calling on all hooligans to be careful of their acts at match venues.
The strength of the police sometimes to provide the necessary security. The advice may come from the police, but the local organizers may want to negotiate for, say, lesser numbers of police officers or numbers that are lower than the recommended numbers by the police officers. Sometimes because of the resources that they will have to make available for that to happen. And so we should at all times have the open mind of seeking to adhere to the advice rather than having our numbers ready to negotiate, to limit the kind of security that the police will avail itself to provide at match centers. And where the advice comes that for one or two reasons, because you see, when we're going to provide security, we are not looking at security relative to the match alone. Sometimes there may be prevailing conditions in the community that could trigger incidents happening on the field. Exactly. Yeah. And sometimes you have to negotiate hard before local organizers even get to understand. And these are reports coming from commanders on the ground. So yes, the advice is not only going for spectators to do the right thing, but also for the local organizers to do the right thing from the beginning. Match officials to do what is right for the beginning so that their actions don't trigger actions that call for arresting people later on for prosecutions. But having said this, should anybody go to any stadia or any field football playing field to conduct him or herself in a manner that the law gives authority to police to arrest and prosecute, you leave us with no option than to arrest you and prosecute you.
Never give the police no option than to arrest and prosecute you. Now let's do something on national team football. There are conversations surrounding alleged favoritism when it comes to players who are called up to play for the various national teams. They say because of Kurt Okreku's affiliation with Dreams FC, most players are earning invitation to the various national teams. He says even before he became GFA president, his players always had opportunities of representing the country at various levels.
It's totally wrong. Before I became the president of the FA, my players always represented Ghana when they are called up. In the last U20 before, the very bad one, that's U20,
yeah.
Dreams FC had 4 players in the squad. I was not the FA president. In this victorious team, I had 3 players in the squad and 3 of the very best. Yes, it's true. I am a big investor in football. I'm sure we also have 2, 3, 4, 5 big investors in the game. It's normal. But so long as I work in the football industry, football players are only selected from the football industry. And if it is that a Dreams FC player is good, a Dreams FC player will be selected.
Yeah.
If it is that an All Blacks player is good, the player from All Blacks will be selected. If it is that there's a good player in Yendi and is good, the player will be selected. At the end, the team that represented Ghana was very competitive. They dominated West Africa, they dominated Africa, and they are all Ghanaians.
For our national team, we do lower division football. That is the Division 1 league. About 5 players currently ply their trade within the Ghana Premier League, and those 5 players have combined to score 22 goals. Many say that there's massive quality in the lower division, and that means that they have it easily when they upgrade to the Ghana Premier League. My colleague Oreku Ampofo has been taking a look at the players who have been transferred from Division 1 leagues to the Premier League, and they are turning heads around.
For many years, the Division 1 league has been a stepping stone to the Ghana Premier League. This season has been no different, with a range of talent from the Division 1 taking the league by storm. It all started with former Asante Kotoko striker Kwame Opoku, who signed from Nkoranza Warriors. His impact on the Porcupine Warriors couldn't go unnoticed, as his 7 goals contributed to over 50% of the club's goals in the first round. Opoku had transitioned so smoothly from the Division 1 to the Premier Division, and as a result, bagged a transfer to Algerian side USM Alger. Asante Kotoko needed a replacement for the second round and went back to the same destination. This time, Unistar Academy was the location, as the Porcupines snapped up Andy Kumi. Kumi had scored 7 goals in the Division 1, and questions remained whether he could replicate that form amongst the big boys. In his first 2 starts, Kumi has scored 2 goals and looks like a player who's enjoying life under new coach Mariano Barreto. This new recruitment strategy has also been replicated by Heart of Oak. The Phobians lost Joseph Esso and Kofi Koji last season and replaced them with Isaac Mensah and Victor Edu, both from Nkoranza Warriors and Samatex FC in the Division 1 respectively. Edu is currently the top scorer of Heart of Oak with 7 goals this season, as Mensah has scored 3 goals in just 9 appearances. Ejenim Boateng was also very consistent with Nzema Kotoko, scoring 38 goals in 52 games. He joined Dreams FC, where he's formed a formidable partnership with Joseph Esso up front, scoring 5 goals so far. Boateng's performances warranted him a place in the Black Stars B side that faced Uzbekistan last month. Michael Che Bafor was also snapped up by West Africa Academy before the start of the season, tying the midfielder down to a 3-year deal. Bafor helped his former side Wasunta Sporting Club rise from the Division 2 to Division 1 and has been tipped to become a key player for his new side Wafa. He's been consistent so far this season, with the academy boys pulling the strings from the middle of the park. The jump from the Division 1 to the Premier League often is a difficult one, but these players have proved it can be a smooth transition.
Hello, good morning. If you've just joined us, of course, this is the AM show, and this is AM Talk, where we discuss some of the big issues in our country. I've got two members of parliament joining this conversation. First is Alhassan Sahini, he's member of parliament for Tamale North, a member of the Lands and Forestry Committee and also the Appointments Committee of Parliament. And Dr. Stephen Amoah is MP for Inshaeso, member of the Finance Committee and Privileges Committee of Parliament. Good morning to you, gentlemen. Thank you for joining me.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for having us on your set.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I've asked this or if it is clear enough. Alhassan Sahini, you haven't resigned from the Appointments Committee, have you?
No, I haven't.
Okay, all right, great. And fasting started yesterday.
Yes, indeed. So let me take this opportunity to wish Muslim brothers and sisters Ramadan Kareem. We pray that Almighty Allah will accept our ibadah, accept our fast, and guide us onto the right path, and help us maintain the good deeds that we will embark on even after the 30 days of Ramadan. And I wish non-Muslims to Ramadan Kareem, because I know that even people who do not fast, especially those who live in predominantly Muslim communities, tend to also feel the atmosphere around this time. And it's good to do good, even if you are not fasting in the month of Ramadan.
Ameen. Well, thank you very much. We'll be celebrating after the fasting. Dr. Stephen Amoah, is that your breakfast? Because you were showing it to us a while ago. What's the intention? You want to share?
Oh. I'll probably share with my brother, and everything that Honorables said, I also share the same with him. I am with the Muslim brothers, especially him, that I'm going to have a program with this morning, in spirit and in prayer. So I also support them. Probably mistakenly that was shown. Of course, I will come and prepare some for you.
Well, thank you very much. Since you're in Inshaeso, so are you in Kumasi? Dr. Stephen, I was asking if you're in the Ashanti region. Are you?
It keeps on breaking.
Okay.
I think there is some sort of destructive interference. I don't know whether it's from my end or your end.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me at least?
I think it's better.
Okay, great. I was asking if you're in the Ashanti region. Are you in your constituency?
Yeah, I'm in the Ashanti region, precisely in Inshaeso constituency.
Okay, great. Because I want to start with the power situation. So what's been your experience since you went back into the constituency with the power cuts in Kumasi?
Thank you very much. My regards to our viewers this very morning. Probably those who live with me in my community will, attest to what I'm saying. Yes, I've heard a lot of people complaining. Parts of my constituency, TUC area, Fanchembra area, Atasemaso area, they experience. But if you come to the Aban New side where I live, and then Apraman area, I think we are not. We are very fortunate. So, and I've been listening to what goes on, especially on Love FM, your subsidiary in Kumasi, and a lot of people are also complaining. So it's like the situation in Ashanti region is the same, is what's happening. But my area, coincidentally, I'm getting power.
Okay.
Sorry.
But what's been the general explanation? Do you understand what's going on with the power cuts?
I think the key stakeholders who are supposed to give explanation as individual have not really understood them. Yesterday, I just had this piece of information that there seemed to be misunderstanding or conflict in terms of intersection of activities between GridCo and I think electricity. But I think the problem, in my opinion, is more of strategic management issues. From me, I'm analyzing from that point.
because everything that they are talking about comes under management. Because there is a value chain. The Ghana power industry has a value chain, and of course, we have the fuel supplied to the thermal or for the thermal, which of course induces generation. And then from generation, they have the transmission and distribution. And each of these key segments of the value chain has also some sort of KPIs, I mean key performance indicators. Connecting them is what we also describe as critical activity path. All these processes and all these functional points have to be properly and well managed. So it could be probably infrastructure issues, because each of the segments requires infrastructure, requires technical know-how, those who are in charge, so it requires properly well-defined responsibility framework for the individuals and the functional departments, how they are efficient and how they are equipped and how they are effective. So each of them has to be properly and critically analyzed and appraised and managed, so that if it's resources we need, if it is functional lapses in terms of individual capacity, in terms of department capacity, we need to analyze all these things and understand them, and also define responsibilities for the various segments or institutions, BRA, Gridco, electricity company, and what we have to also know is that. So
it is clear. It is clear that even from where you sit, you're not so sure what the issues are.
Personally, I'm not 100%, because I use this frame and people sometimes, they even want to call me. We call something asymmetric information management. And it is a situation, or it is where critical pieces or key or, important pieces of information we don't have probably access to as external stakeholders, even within the entire value chain. I'm not sure every individual really has all the pieces of information. So I think first we need clarity of what is happening, the causes. So as a country, once we've been able to identify and well understand that, we can contribute. But I think no matter what it is, it boils down to the fact that in strategic management viewpoint, as somebody probably have experience in that field, I can say that we need to go back to the drawing board, understand all the segments of the value chain, understand the critical activity path, understand the key performance and the key performance indicators, and make sure that each of them is properly and effectively positioned.
All right, let me go to your colleague.
Restore this whole issue.
Let me get thoughts from Al-Hassan Suini, and I'll start with the experience whilst you're in Tamale with the power situation.
Well, generally, I think it's been very erratic. When I was there, I am back in Accra, though. I returned about 2 days ago. But when I was there, it was quite erratic. Unfortunately, in Accra, it hasn't been different. In fact, last night in my neighborhood, I experienced personally the light going off about 4 times before they break. And you can imagine the inconvenience that causes to families, especially Muslim communities that have to sleep less around this time, manage their sleep appropriately, because at night there's a need to worship, and there's also the need to have the dawn meal. So I really, really worry for people in especially the Muslim communities having to fast around this time with the unstable power supply. So Tamale was not different from what has been experienced across the country, and I think it is quite disturbing. But
I wanted to before we jump into it, and I'll give you the opportunity to have a first say. I just wanted to bring the issue of Gridco and Bui here. And the latest is the fact that the Bui Power Authority CEO says that the Gridco may have misled the energy minister. I want us to take a listen to Mr. Mark Ba, Director of System Operation at Gridco, who said a few things to us and the Minister of Energy as well.
In particular, has some weaknesses and bottlenecks, which we are trying to address but have not finished yet. So we have had intermittent outages, sometimes transmission lines tripping off from the southwestern part of the country, affecting the entire system, particularly Kumasi. And this culminated, you remember, on March 7th, when the entire system collapsed as a result of cascaded strips which emanated from the western region. Beyond this, Ashanti region, in particular Kumasi, has been experiencing intermittent outages, particularly in the evenings during peak times. And all this is basically because of the fact that our power system has grown in terms of demand. In fact, for the first time this year, we have crossed 3,000 megawatts in terms of demand. We Power Authority, or the We Hydroelectric Power Plant, happens to be the only power plant which is in the central part of the country. It supplies part of the central part, and the rest of the load is met by generation from down south. Currently, as I'm talking to you now, we have had to shut down the Bui plant because of the low water level in the dam. In view of this, every power that the country requires, wherever, up to Bolgatangawa, everything has to come from the coast, from down south, upwards towards the north.
So it is this statement that the CEO of the Bui Power Authority says are not true. Let's listen to Mr. Fred Owari.
Voltages are low, you switch on your lights.
I think Gridco has misled the minister in making such a sad statement, because as we sit here talking right now, Bui is in operation. We have 3 units which work at 133.
It's not true that the water
is not
dry
true.
now.
It's not. That water has gone down without any doubt whatsoever. But this is not an unforeseen act. We knew this. And last year, when we submitted our supply plan, we indicated quite clearly that this year we will not be able to generate as much as we generated last year. And we'll give you them month by month how much we're going to. If there's a problem, let's talk about it.
If there's a problem, let's talk about it. The fault definitely not coming from us, because we are generating power, not to the highest level, but we are in operation. Al-Hassan Sini, what's your understanding of what is playing out here?
You know, Mama B, it takes a long time to feel the effects of mismanagement in the season of abundance. When there's abundant, available for you to play with, even when you are mismanaging, it takes a very long time for people to begin to feel the effect of that mismanagement. And it's just like inheriting, so much wealth from your parents. In the beginning, when you are mismanaging, it is not felt, it is not realized until the chicken come home to roost. And that, for me, is what is happening in our power sector. We have come a long way to the point where we were, by all the experts' predictions, coming out of the woods in terms of the proper and appropriate management of our power systems in this country. And this was as a result of the 2013-2014, devastating Dumso and power challenges. And the 2013-2014 crisis had been predicted by experts even before it hit. And this was as a result of long neglect in terms of investments and management in that sector. So I am fond of saying it for those who may not recall that we did have Dumso under Rawlings, we had it under Mills, we had it under Kufuor, and it was just a matter of time for it to get worse. And indeed, it got worse under President Mahama. But in that worst case was an opportunity for us to put things right. So you had the generation challenge, you had the fuel challenge, and then you had the financial challenge, which all culminated into the crisis that we experienced between 2013 to 2015. So the president and government at the time set out to begin to put the structures right and to do the right kind of investment in generation, where we are now in the region of almost 5,000 megawatts. In the financials, where the debts in the sector became even threatening, suffocating, for banks and financial institutions. Are we there?
Yes, you're on. We can hear you.
Yes. So in that area too, you have Tesla. Even in an election year, when people complained about hardship, this was a government and a leader that was minded by the need to fix a problem permanently. So ESLA had to be introduced to retire those legacy debts and give some fresh air, in terms of investment in the power sector, and give assurances to people who wanted to invest in the sector that it will be liquid moving forward. No wonder we are told that so far ESLA has generated within the last 4 or 5 years over 12 billion Ghana cedis. 12 billion, not million, 12 billion Ghana cedis for this government. But unfortunately, it's been mismanaged. And you recall that in the beginning of the NPP government, when they started mismanaging ESLA, we had cause to caution that, look, the way you are going, you will take us back to doom so, because that was not the intention for which some of these structures were put in place. Again, in the fuel challenge, I told you there were 3 challenges. You had the generation challenge, you had the fuel challenge, and then you had the financial challenge. So the generation challenge was fixed with the bringing on board of Ameri and Eka and others. And then you had the financial leg, which was to be catered for by ESLA, which will bring about consistent investment in the area without the challenge of financing. Then you had the fuel challenge. I'm sure that many reporters, I'm sure you and I will remember, will not remember WACP and how ritual it was to report on the West Africa gas pipeline breaking down and pirates attacking it, and as a result, we having power crisis in this country. Why wouldn't reporters remember WACP that much as you and I will remember it when we're reporting those days? It's because we now have Ghana Gas, which is giving us some stable supply of gas, which is also cheap in terms of fueling our plants. And that didn't just happen. It was a conscious plan to make it happen. I remember President Mahama used to refer to it in those days as the game changer, and that Ghana Gas was going to be the game changer. And so Ghana Gas was fast-tracked. I mean, the development of that project was fast-tracked so that we could have some reliable fuel. So these were some of the things put in place to give that sector some, relief, so that we could begin to build upon what had been achieved with generation, with the financials, and with the fuel aspect of it. Unfortunately, this government came into office, and the first thing they did was to go renegotiating things they didn't have any business renegotiating. And I speak of facts because the Ameri deal, for example, led to them sacking their own minister, who was in charge of power. So it just tells you that they doubled in things that they had no business doubling in. Brought in PDS fraudulently. They claim it to be fraudulent. I am not saying that. The minister at the time, Amewu, described it as fraudulent, and messed up the sector. They misapplied the proceeds that were coming from ESLA. But when we spoke of that, mismanagement at the time, because they were doing so in the midst of abundance, people did not feel the effect. And that is why, for me, I say that what is happening is just the chicken coming home to roost. The warnings were on the wall. We in the minority, spoke to some of these, warnings, but it was dismissed as politics. And so it's not pleasant, but it's vindication. And maybe it is time the government, admits that they did not understand the sector when they inherited it. And they did not perhaps appreciate where the sector was headed as a result of some of the things that had been put in place by the previous government. And that if they took their time to perhaps go through the handing over notes and engaged, the previous government better, not with the mindset of witch hunting and criminalizing them, we wouldn't be where we are. Most of even the routine maintenance works that are happening now, Mama V, are delayed. Speak to the experts. They are delayed because they didn't find them important when they took over. They had some schedules that they had to follow, but they thought it was needless because, again, they were operating in the midst of abundance that had been handed over to them. So they didn't appreciate the dangers ahead. And so they delayed some of these, routine maintenance programs that they had inherited. They diverted some of the funds meant for some projects to other projects. And now they have to, start those projects. And that is why we are in the mess that we are in. They can only help us come out of it when they admit that they misunderstood things and perhaps bring everybody around the table to discuss these issues dispassionately. And then maybe the old route can then be used for us to come out of these routes.
Let me go to Dr. Stephen Amoah. And Dr. Stephen Amoah, GridCo is not spelling out its challenges clearly enough, for those who can advocate even for it to be resolved. So we're not sure exactly where we are, but when you listen to the systems director of GridCo and you hear the response from the BUI CEO, what conclusions do you arrive at?
Thank you. But just before then, I think my brother on the other side has actually introduced politics into this discussion, and I think it would be fair for me to also touch on these areas. Interestingly, if we want to do politics, then we have still not actually broken the 4 or 5 year record of power outages under the NDC. And this erroneous impression that they are just always put into the public domain, which is palpable false, has to be corrected. When they took over, in fact, the first statement by the then Honorable Dufour, respectfully on the floor of the Parliament, captured the achievements, the effort, and then the things that the then MPP government had done in the area of energy, talking about T1, T2, talking about Asogli, talking about Budai. So they came and made huge infrastructure and other developments in the area of energy. And when they talk as if they did not inherit this. But with all this, what happened? They plunged this whole country into doing so for almost 4 or 5 years. They left us take or pay policy. You remember that we had to pay for even generations that we were not supposed to use, and was costing Ghana a lot. And they said, oh, why won't you even export them? But the cost of it could not even be actually patronized, even within the sub-region. So if we're talking about those who actually caused mismanagement of the energy sector, which has led to this, then the remote cause, we need to hold them responsible. You remember that just before they left power, most of the state institutions were owing electricity company. We have to pay all this. So I don't want us to go into, because if we are doing comparative analysis, if we are doing trend analysis, in terms of the performance of the energy sector in Ghana, they are the major causes or cause of all the problems we are having today.
Except that they are not the ones running the economy today. So it is your responsibility.
Perfectly well. But my sister, you heard, in fact, I even made a mistake. I thought the misunderstanding was between GridCo and electricity. But at least upon hearing, subsequent presentations and submission, I heard it was between rather Bui Dam and then the GridCo. And you realize that the Bui Dam authority said that the water level had gone down. In fact, when we were kids, because the hydro aspect, it's Akosombo, Pong, and Bui Dam. when we were kids, this ritual consequences or ramifications, we're experiencing them. That almost every year they will say that, oh, Akosombo, the water level is down. We have to put one or shut one of the turbines, and because of that, we're having power outages. We were having all these.
But we understand that's not the cause of what we are experiencing today. In fact, we have enough generation. We just don't have the infrastructure to carry it. We don't have the grid to carry.
But then you should have asked the expert. They said it right now. I'm quoting them. They said that the Bui Dam handles the central part of our country, if I heard them right. But the water level. So can you also allow me?
No. I want to allow you, but I also wanted to clarify. See, that's the statement that the Bui CEO says is untrue. They are in operation. They are not at their highest level, but they haven't shut down.
But you hear the CEO. The CEO. So there was even a conflicting statement between the CEO and the board chair, if we all heard, unless I didn't hear, because Martin keeps on cutting. You know, it's giving up sinusoidal performance, probably is the network. But what I'm trying to say is that at least they have been able to provide one of the causes of what we are experiencing right now. The concentration is in the central part of Ghana, including Ashanti region. And they are saying that it is a Bui Dam that takes care of central part of Ghana, and the water levels are down. And I'm saying that, I'm not saying we should accept it, but what I'm saying is that ritually, when we're even kids, this was the same problem we're having with Akosombo Dam. So it looks as if people are rather misinterpreting the whole problem in terms of inbound and outbound of the value chain. But I don't want to do politics with it, no matter what it is. Ghanaians want power. And as I agree with you, we should be able to solve the problem, analyze each of the segments of the value chain, and understand the problems and the causes. If it is infrastructural lapses, what can we do? Can we do it in a short term, medium term, long term? What information are we supposed to pass on to stakeholder institutions, particularly the industries? Because the users are basically domestic, talking about the commercial entities, and also probably we export some of them if that is true. We need to make sure that we provide the needed information for Ghanaians to understand when are we solving this problem. But for my brother to talk about, in fact, I'm even surprised that he's saying that we mismanage the resources from ESLA. We have Parliamentary Select Committee that handles energy sector. And they pass them and approve them, including NDC MPs. Did they raise these issues? If we have auditors' report that can confirm these things, why did they pass them? Why did they approve? So my brother on the other side should avoid introducing politics, because they are the worst offenders. And let us tackle this thing holistically as a country and know that Ghana, I mean, once a while these problems come up. What can we do to provide everlasting solution to these problems so that as a country we can keep on expanding our industries, creating jobs, I mean, having our livelihood properly lived and all these things. But if you keep on trying to do politics and talk about mismanagement, they were not even paying the electricity companies, state institutions and the NDC, they were not paying. Now he's talking about mismanagement. They plunged us into 4-year power outages. Now they are talking about mismanagement. The fact of the matter is that let us take away politics if he wants. But if he wants us to do politics, we can provide figures. No country on this earth will plunge, or no leader on this earth will plunge its country and the next generation to come and posterity into debt that we are not benefiting from. That whether you take or not, you have to pay a huge amount of money. It's costing us billions. Those amounts could have been used for whatever needs that we want today. I don't want to really go in there. Okay. I want us to understand the fact that it is a national problem we encounter today. We are in power. Yes, we have to resolve, as you said, my sister, I agree with you. But the fact of the matter is that we need to do more comprehensive analysis of the issue. Just identify the actual cause, the precise cause. We should do that with precision. Okay. And know who is not doing his work well.
I want to introduce...
Government should quickly...
Sorry, I want to introduce a second leg to it because there's an ECG issue, just so we don't use all the time talking about this issue of Gridco and Bui. The ECG workers, in fact, the junior and senior staff, are also against their managing director. They say he is incompetent and they want him to be removed. And they've given a deadline to the board to consider their request. Otherwise, they say they will advise themselves. I don't know how much of this you know, if you appreciate the issues of the ECG workers and their managing director.
My sister, if you can hear me, what they are saying actually confirms the analysis I'm making, that each segment we need to analyze, understand the critical activity perhaps, see the problems there, and see the active players, the stakeholders, those who are in charge of these critical activities, and then the key performance indicators, and see if they have, look, performance is simply the function of one ability. If the manager or the director has the ability, then the next thing is opportunity. Opportunity comes with resources. Opportunity comes with infrastructure. Opportunity comes with a lot of things. Then motivation. So we need to analyze these things. You cannot say the director is incompetent unless we really go into the issue and find out whether what the staff or the workers or the employees are saying is true or otherwise. Then we can draw the needed inferences and move on from there. So what I'm saying is that my proposition this morning is that all the segment, I think it's the simplest thing we should know, that in terms of the fuel supply for the thermal point, are we having it done efficiently and effectively? In terms of generation, are we having it where you talk about the liquid and the gases? Are we having it in terms of transmission? Are we getting everything right? Are the things we have not obsolete? Because people are saying they are also obsolete, whether true or not. We need to analyze these things. Then those who are in charge of these critical activities, who is in charge of what, and what is the person doing? What is the person lack that is leading to this problem? We need to do this strategic management analysis of the situation, or situation analysis, and then find solutions to it. But if our brothers want to do politics, then they are the worst offenders. If indeed the electricity boss does not have the ability, which I cannot, confirm now or infer, we should go into it. If he has to be changed, he has to be changed. Probably he might also be doing something right that is really going contrary to the rituals and the culture of the organization that people are not happy with. We need to analyze all these things. And I'm sure as a country, we don't want to go into next year, next 2 years, and it's like once a while Ghana is plunged into power outages and total darkness, and all industries have to come to halt, and our productivity becomes a problem, and we cannot develop our economy sustainably. We need to make sure that we manage all these things. But we should avoid politics as much as possible. Other than that, we cannot have the solution. We'll have the whole thing with politics and the actual cause and the needed solutions and who is causing it and what is the problem we cannot solve. And that is what I'm saying to my brother this morning.
All right, Alhassan Sini, let me give you the opportunity so you can also touch on the ECG workers.
Mama V, my brother's suggestion on politics is laughable. Politicians are in charge of the systems, and they are required to make decisions to make the systems better or not. And so when you say take politics out of it, I get confused, because politics, in my view, is supposed to lead to decision making that improve systems and by extension improve ways of life. Mr. Fred Owari Adui is a politician. The ECG boss that the workers are up in arms against is a politician. Ajimambe is a politician. The president is a politician. The minister of energy is a politician. And it is those people who are collectively expected to make decisions that will improve the power sector and by extension, make life better. So if I am criticizing them and the decisions that they are making because I'm a politician, but my criticisms, have merit, how is that misplaced? How will that not lead us to finding solutions? Politics is about competition of ideas so that the best idea gets the day to be implemented. And so let's avoid that needless PR of always dismissing very germane issues on the altar of engaging in politics. And for the information of my brother, Mama V, maybe you can help us do this. Just for a moment, shut down Ghana Gas. Imagine that Ghana Gas is shut down. Just for a moment, imagine that Acre plant is shut down. And just for a moment, think of Ameri being shut down. And just for a moment, imagine that we didn't have about 12 billion from ESLA. And then picture for yourself the energy sector as it is today, how it would have been. Just imagine that these three, investments, Ameri, Acre, and Ghana Gas were not there. So when my brother tells you that the NDC is the problem, he is being very, very disingenuous.
Can we move to the ECG directly? Can we move to the ECG issue directly?
Sorry?
I'm asking if we can move to the ECG because of time.
Yes, we will, but these are very important issues I have to address. Otherwise, he misleads people who followed him. The NDC is the solution. And I'm telling you that if you shut down Ghana Gas, if you shut down Ameri and Acre today, and if you didn't have 12 billion from ESLA, the situation that you are going through today as a result of their mismanagement of what they inherited would have been worse.
Points well made.
So let them be humble.
Let's talk about the ECG stuff and their MD.
And the ECG stuff, I will be honest with you. I do not know what the issues are really on the ground. I heard the workers yesterday in the news. I have read some of their,
the resolution
accusations against the manager in terms of his capacity to even lead. He going not following the structures in doing things that he's. I mean, these are things that should be investigated. I agree. Maybe on that score with my brother, that it is not always the case that the workers are right when they agitate. But it may also be the case because they live with that incompetence. And so who better to tell us when the institution that they earn their livelihood from is at risk as a result of mismanagement and incompetence. But let us also understand that in some cases, a leader may be leading certain reforms that make people uncomfortable, and that can lead to these agitations. So it is important that as we approach it, we do so with sober minds, with open minds, and so that we can soberly reflect on the issues as they come to fore and take a decision. The appointing authority must be concerned about what is happening there, especially around this time when the power sector is in the crisis that they are in. This sort of distraction is not what is required. You need unity of purpose at all the agencies. Workers working in tandem with management and working with other institutions in the same sector to resolve the crisis so that we can all benefit. These are things that you do not need at this time. But if you permit me to address another issue my brother raised, because I have filed a question on the floor of Parliament on this issue. And I'm expecting that when it is addressed, it will put to rest, the argument of excess capacity charges. We have often heard of it, but we do not know the companies that are receiving these excess capacity charges. So I have filed a question on the floor to the finance minister to tell us how much this country has paid in terms of excess capacity charges, and to which companies since 2017. Because it is important that we know the companies that are generating the so-called excess power that we are not using, yet we are paying for. It is important that we know the companies that are generating that and the companies that are being paid. Because you hear figures being bandied around, but we do not know the companies that are being paid these monies. And so I am hoping that this question will address the issue of excess capacity charges. Because you recall that in the negotiations, we're told that they were cancelling some of the agreements that we had with some of these IPPs. And when at the committee level, the energy committee level, they were asked how many had been cancelled so far. I think only about one, or even that was suspended and not really cancelled. So it is important that we address this issue of excess capacity charges.
Okay.
But again,
do we know when a response will come?
I do not know, but it was filed as an urgent question before Parliament rose. So I'm sure that when we resume, it will be one of the first to be addressed. But then, if you had a government that was coming into power promising double-digit growth in GDP and promising a factory in every district, isn't it just ironic that they complain of excess power? If they were really growing this economy, in double digits, and if they were really putting up factories in every district, would we have had enough power for those things? Or even if they had the mindset to do that, would they be complaining about excess power? Would they be rather happy that there's excess power for them to, do some of the things that they said they were coming to do? But it just tells you.
We need to close this conversation, this topic at least. But Dr. Stephen Amo, I think it's just fair that I give you about a minute if you want to make comments on this issue before we get into the second subject or the third one.
Okay.
Dr. Amwa? Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Please go ahead.
From the Energy Commission, this is an official body, very statutory in terms of respect and accepting information from them. They said that we produce about 5,085 in terms of megawatts or whatever. We use 2,700, and the 2,300 we don't use. And there has been a contractual agreement, take or pay. So I'm surprised my brother is saying these things when he knows the truth that this is a problem. He doesn't have to run away or say anything, which of course we all know in Parliament and outside Parliament and in Ghana, this is a situation going unless he has enough information to disprove what the Energy Commission has said. Because as I'm talking, we are not. In any case, if we promise to do 1D, 1F, we have done a lot of them. If they had started, it would have finished. And the fact that we decided to do more industries doesn't mean we have to produce or generate electricity that we were not supposed to use and pay for. That is not best practice. That is not prudent management of state resources and prudent policies that are to be established and set by any leader or authority or government. What we are saying is that we accept the challenge as a government. Now Ghanaians need electricity. They need power. They want to have light. We are working on that. Our government, we are not sleeping. The energy minister, the president, everybody is involved now, even down to the lower staff. We are just making sure that we develop a strategy by ideas and evaluative techniques and make sure that we put to end this problem. But for him to talk about things that they did worse, things that they even initiated, things that they did not put in place, in any case, T1, T2, Asogli, and Buida, were they not also helping Ghana? They were not giving output in terms of economic revenue from all those things. We are doing those things. So you shouldn't talk as if they did. Of course, population growth demanded expanded infrastructure. They also did something about it.
Okay.
But they could not manage ours well, and they plunged Ghana into about 4 or 5 years. We have not even gotten there. That's what we want to say.
I thank you, Dr. Amwa.
Which of the jurisdictions?
And that brings to an end this conversation related to power. Just before we wrap up, I thought that I would get some comments also on the fact that Dr. Safo-Mafo is now advisor to the president's former senior minister is now advisor. I think there are people raising questions as to whether or not he'll be involved directly in this government. Does this news, Alhassan Suyini, come to you as a surprise from senior minister, now advisor to the president?
It's just musical chairs, man. It doesn't come to me as a surprise at all. I mean, it's just in line with what this government is good at, PR. And, every problem is approached with a PR solution. So there was concern about number of ministers appointed. And so instead of call them ministers, call them advisors. But still, let them play the same role that they were playing. I still have the same access to the same budget that they are allocated to, occupy the same offices, but still, be the drain that they were on the national coffers, but with a new name. It's just in line with this government. Approach every problem with a PR solution.
Interesting how you analyze that. Dr. Stephen Amwa will disagree with you. Sticker?
Of course. I mean, if you're talking about experience in Ghana here, proven record, Dr. Osafo-Maafo, I mean, it's beyond all debate and ambiguity. Engineer,
he's not a doctor. He's
finance,
not a
farmer, businessman, a minister. I mean, what else do you need to make somebody an advisor to the president? What else do you need? As I said, performance is a function. I'm repeating the function of one ability. And in terms of ability, in terms of capability, in terms of experience, in terms of proven record, every Tom, Dick, and Harry in our country, I'm not saying he's perfect. I'm not saying he's without blemish. I'm not saying he's the best in the world. But Osafo-Maafo, we used to call him Osi Awoyo. Have you forgotten about this, my brother? Osi Awoyo or something. He is somebody that in our political history, in the management of the economy of Ghana, in terms of, the social aspect, in terms of the finance and the economy, in terms of education, in terms of agriculture, everything, he has, demonstrated in this country time and time again that he's somebody that even a lot of people were expecting that one day he would have been a president. Oh. So if he has still been appointed, it means the president has this nation at heart. And in terms of picking those with core competence and experiences, the president understands what he wants to do.
Okay.
I'm not saying that he's not a good material. And so he knows if he had been in NDC, probably they would have given him a bigger position than that.
What position would they have given him, sir?
Oh, Osafo-Maafo, first of all, he's not a doctor. But one thing he's done for himself that I noticed when we were vetting him in the first, term of Nana Akufo-Addo was how diligently he has worked, at the various places that he has served. I remember even trying to use him as motivation for people who often will want to close early, rush out of the office and go and undertake courses, because it was pleasantly surprising to me that after his first degree, he actually did nothing, by way of education, but just focus on career development. And I think he's done very well for himself in that respect as a banker and then later as a politician. He's done very well for himself. But let us not also forget of some of the controversies.
And for Ghana, he's done well for
Let
Ghana.
us not also forget some of the controversies that he has been engaged in. The Macmillan contract when he was the Minister of Education. Even this Woyomi thing, sometimes it strays back to his days, under President Kufuor as minister. Then you will also recall his recent, banter with Dumolevo, which has eventually led to
these are all perceptions. You cannot take perceptions and controversies.
These are very
important issues when we are discussing this.
These are reported issues that have not been resolved. And the Dumolevo issue
exactly.
is
so you cannot.
The Dumolevo
no
issue,
court of competent jurisdiction has drawn any inferences legally on this. So you cannot quote this. These are all perceptions.
The troubles of started with Yao Osafo-Maafo. The troubles of the Auditor General that eventually had to be hunted, out of office started with Yao Osafo-Maafo.
So it means Osafo-Maafo
so let's not
was
forget that.
No.
Let's not forget that. So I am just saying that it is no news that he is still in this government. I didn't expect him to be out of this government.
Man of wisdom. Man of wisdom.
All right, gentlemen, we have to wrap up. I thank you so much for your time. Alhassan Saini, Member of Parliament for Tamale North. Thank you so much for your time. He's Lands Forestry Committee Member of Parliament plus Appointment Committee. Maybe some other time, Alas and Cindy, we will talk about this consultative engagement that's underway that begins today and tomorrow on the issue of Galamsey. The president did tax us to have a national conversation on this, and something is starting. So hopefully we'll get to speak on this. Also, Dr. Stephen Amo, Member of Parliament for Nshaiso, member of the Finance and Privileges Committee of Parliament. Gentlemen, thank you. Sticker, you can go back to your breakfast.
I'm sure next time I'll have to invite you.
Thank you so much. And that's AM Talk this morning. Stay with us. We've got some more conversations as we take a trip around the regions. We want to look at the topical issues across the country today. So what is the very latest where you are? You can also join us as well as we take this trip. You're watching the AM show. Stay with us.
Central Market. It is the largest market across the South region. And of course, the market is on fire right now, and the personnel of the Ghana Fire Service are all over trying their possible best to put out the fire. And this is the situation right now. The fire has extended to other parts of the market. We have fire tenders. At least I've spotted about 5 different fire tenders all over trying their possible best to put out the fire here. All security agencies from the police, the fire, the immigration, all are available here doing their best to ensure that the safety of the people is assured. So we'll try our possible best to get some few people here who were eyewitnesses, who saw the beginning of the fire, to have their take on what they saw when the fire incident started.
Honorable was Francis, but I don't know friend is Tomboy. Hayana, I'm going to talk about phones. One station, now we are in me, but now we are shop around. The million said now more.
So interesting scenes there from Techiman, very worrisome scenes, in fact, where some 22 stalls were razed, maybe not to the ground, but gutted by fire. But let's take you now to the Ashanti region, where Nanayo Jima is actually standing by to get interactive with us on the back of that story with regard to 6 different snake species being found in some parts of Kumasi. Nanayo, a very good morning to you. Thank you for joining the conversation.
Good morning, Benjamin.
Great. Right. So let me just find out from you, what has been the reaction of the people in Kumasi on the back of some of these happenings, these snakes, coming into residential areas, into where people reside, basically? What has been the reaction of people?
It is becoming a worry for many who have gotten the information, and especially for areas where some of these snakes were picked by the Kumasi Zoo. The people are now asking how these snakes came into their homes, especially the ones that they were able to harvest at or from the Kumasi Central Market. So it has raised a lot of concerns from people, especially people wanting to know how these snakes are coming out. So through the climate scientists and other professionals in the Ashanti region, we've been able to establish that the filth or uncollected waste in the region could contribute to the migration of these snakes into the homes and the city centers. So the advice that the people are being given is that they will have to keep their surroundings clean so that rodents will not get into these areas that will attract snakes. Also, the environment. A lot of due to expansion and human activities, there are a lot of the environment is being destroyed. The forest areas or where these snakes reside are being destroyed. So the concerns are that there should be an enhancement or enforcement of the laws that govern the environment to ensure that these animals stay where they are and humans can also be wherever they are. And also the Kumasi Zoo is calling on residents to call them to harvest these snakes whenever they come into their homes. So it's been a lot. There have been a lot of talks concerning the invasion of these snakes in their country.
So one interesting development, and I've seen some of these happen, I mean, watched documentaries in South Africa where this is pretty, rampant. But I just want to find out, on the back of all that has been, determined up to this point in time, what does the KMA, for example, what does the EPA, what are they saying in respect of this? Have they even reacted at all? Because there will have to be some sensitization of people in that regard. What have they been saying?
So officially, we are yet to get to the KMA and the EPA, but even before now, we know that the KMA has taken some actions concerning the filth in the Kumasi city. For instance, somewhere last year, the KMA was on enforcement of laws regarding the environment, especially the cleanliness. So they embarked on a campaign to ensure that the city is clean. Even though it yielded some results this year, or getting to the elections, they had to put a halt to such an exercise in which many thought that it could end the filth, or it could lead to keeping the city clean and green, as the KMA had always advocated. So they are yet to speak, but we know that now they have enhanced the cleaning in the city, and also they are taking some steps to ensure that Kumasi is rid of filth. But we haven't seen much of an impact from what they've been doing. So we are hoping that today the EPA and other agencies who are concerned can also come into the story, and we get to know what the action that they will take going forward.
Thank you, Nanaya, for bringing us up to speed on that development. But let me quickly cross over to the Techiman area where Anas Sabit is. We recently saw that structure gutted with fire. Anas, what more can you tell us about, what's the latest, basically, on that development with regard to the stalls that went on fire?
Yeah, authorities here are still investigating the actual cause of the fire. We gathered that the fire started from welding work that was ongoing around that part of the market. Investigations are ongoing as we speak, and the Regional Fire Command is here to brief us whether they've ascertained what caused the fire. What we know is that lots of shops, over 20 of the shops around that area, with one was heavily affected, and so as it stands, traders around that part of the market are counting their losses, as those worth thousands of Ghana cedis were burnt entirely. So that is what we know for now. Except that before this fire incident about a week ago, I did a story about how the Regional Fire Command is taking education and sensitization campaigns to various homes and then some parts of the market. And that, according to the Regional Command, has led to the significant reduction of fires. And so when this fire incident occurred, we were quite surprised because entirely within the whole year, within the first quarter, we have not recorded any major fire incidents in the region. This being the first has come as a surprise to the residents in this area.
Let me ask you very quickly, Anas. Do we know what caused the fire?
It's like I said earlier, this particular fire, we were told there was a welder who was, there was a renovation project ongoing close to where the fire started. So this welder connected a cable to a nearby meter, and through the work, in the course of the work, there was fire, and because it is a latex foam depot, this fire caught the foams or the mattresses, and we know how fire or such fires, act, and that caused the damage entirely. This is what eyewitnesses told us. The Regional Fire Command and the security agencies are currently investigating to ascertain the reality of this particular report we have gathered on the ground.
Okay, let me quickly sneak in this bit. All of us have been talking about the power situation in the country. What's it like in Techiman?
Well, it is quite moderate here. For me, personally, where I stay, I don't remember the last time we've had a power outage. And it is same with most parts of the municipality. I remember about a week ago, a section of the Techiman municipality went off because there was a major problem the VRA is dealing with. So with regards to this national power rationing we are seeing or recording in Accra and Kumasi and some major cities, Techiman is a exception in a way, and we are not actually feeling it that much here.
Well, Anas, thank you actually for bringing us up to speed on the latest. Is Nanaya still with us? All right, let's now connect with Peter Senu. Peter, a very good morning to you. Hello, Peter. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Good morning.
Okay, and you're reporting from the OT region where some residents of Sibi in the Nkwanta North District have suffered from acute water shortages. What is the current situation when it comes to that?
The situation, I would say it's dire. It's a very serious one with regard to the Sibi community. In fact, the current situation is that they would have to dig the ground. There is a stagnant water, so they would have to scoop the ground such that the little that comes out, someone sits in the hole and then fetches it into the bowl until he or she is done. Another person steps in. And so there are several of these dugouts along that stagnant water where they fetch their water. In fact, some of them have to travel to as far as Damanko or Kwaza. If they want to drink that clean water, they would have to not drink for a day. And then they say it costs them not less than 50 Ghana cedis a day to do that. And this, I can say, is affecting every facet of life in that community. Because yesterday I spent almost the whole day with them trying to understand exactly what the situation is. And it is not a pleasant one. The water, I would even say, it stinks because the source of the water now, it's like a valley between two communities. And so when rain falls, it goes down from each end. And so the rubbish, everything filthy goes in there. And so what is left now is very stinking. They share with animals. And that is what they depend on currently as we speak.
Peter, are there any alternatives apart from this? Are there any alternatives that the people have, or is this what they've been reduced to? That if they do not get this, for those who can't even make this journey, what do they do?
Yes, exactly the point. This is their main source of water. In fact, there are boreholes. There are boreholes in the community, but they are not functioning. It's like a hilltop. And so they do it for them and then it won't work. And so this is what they have been reduced to. Those who cannot afford to travel that long or much for water, this is what they depend on for daily activities. In fact, some of them drank this off camera and then it is not a pleasant thing to do. More importantly, students are complaining that the whole day they come to sit here and in search of water, and they would spend the whole day here doing that. And you can see children, some of them turn the place into a playground. And so economic life, social life, everything in the community is to ground zero. In fact, I spoke to some of the Muslims in the community. They have started their Ramadan. And they say access to water to even do the ablution, and even in this difficult time of COVID-19 is a serious issue to them. I spoke to the health, personnel in the community. They lament that this is even affecting their other colleagues who may not want to stay in the community to move away. And so they come 2-3 months, they watch the situation, they are not okay with it, they leave. Teachers, the same thing is happening to them. And so they are only appealing that something be done urgently, right? That they can, live a life worthy of it with regard to access to potable drinking water.
And we've been going across the regions to find out, pockets of what exactly is transpiring there. You just heard from Peter Senu in the Oti region. Let's cross over now to Sekondi Takoradi in the western region. And some residents are saying they are living in fear after recording 3 robbery cases in 3 days back to back. Natalia Kwanza joins us with details. Natalia, a very good morning to you. What is the latest?
Hi, good morning, Ben.
Great. What is the latest on this development from the police and from the security agencies? What are they saying in respect of this outbreak in crime?
Well, Ben, this morning when you come to Sekondi Takoradi, you see a lot of police officers scattered all over on the major streets. This morning, they are searching every vehicle. They are arresting some motorbikes. They are doing search. They are making sure that they provide the maximum protection for the residents of Sekondi Takoradi. At 11 o'clock a.m. this morning, the regional commander would be meeting the media to talk about the crime, the robbery cases that have gone on in less than 1 week, to tell us what the police is doing, how they are liaising with their sister agencies. Yesterday, I had opportunity to speak to the deputy PRO for the Ghana Immigration Service, because some residents were also raising an eyebrow that they feel that the jailbreak in Imo State could be a contributory factor to this robbery case. But Moses Manford Akapo, who is the deputy PRO, told me that no, that is never true, because he can say with on authority that our borders are closed, the borders in the western region are closed, and there is tight security over there. Residents are anxious. They want to know what is happening. They want to know if they are safe. And then they have also raised issue about non-availability of street lights at places. So they've asked that the STMA in particular provide street lights at places where there are no street lights, so that at least they can feel safer with the presence of police patrolling day and night. All right.
Natalia, thank you very much for bringing us up to speed on all of these developments. And of course, you can expect more on this network in the course of today. We take a bit of a breather and wrap up after that. Well, thank you very much for joining us this morning on the AM show. I'm looking forward to getting a loaf of bread this morning, and I'm sure I'll get one from OIB as well. Thank you for joining us.
Bye.